I never imagined the quiet cul-de-sac we moved into would become the battleground where my wife, yes, the county sheriff herself, would get ambushed by the very people she trains, commands, and signs paychecks for. And I definitely didn't expect the HOA to be the ones who set the whole disaster in motion. But let me start at the beginning, because the moment this mess unfolded, I swear I felt the temperature drop 10 degrees. Like the neighborhood itself knew something terrible was about to happen. It all started on a Wednesday morning, the kind where everything is too peaceful to trust. My wife, Laura, had just come off a 16-hour shift. She's the toughest woman I know, level-headed, and more patient than anyone wearing a badge has any right to be. But even she looked exhausted as she climbed out of her cruiser and walked toward the house. We live in a neighborhood run by our HOA president, Charlene, better known as Karen, in a pastel cardigan. She's the kind of woman who treats the HOA rules like holy scripture and wields the violation letters like personal weapons. To her, every mailbox height and every grass blade length is her divine responsibility. My wife barely got through the front door when it all began. Charlene marched down the street like she was about to lead a civil war. Her clipboard swung at her side like a weapon, and her heels clicked on the pavement with the precision of a metronome, fueled by rage. She was flanked by her two loyal lieutenants, neighbors who had nothing better to do than run surveillance on everyone else. They stopped right in front of our driveway as my wife stepped back outside to grab a bag she left in the cruiser. Charlene's voice rose like a siren. "There she is. I told you she was the one doing it." My wife froze. "Doing what?" Charlene pointed at her like she was identifying a criminal in a lineup. "Parking a commercial vehicle on residential property. Your police cruiser violates HOA Regulation 7C, and you," she hissed at my wife, "refused to respond to my earlier warnings." Laura blinked slowly. She looked tired enough to fall asleep standing, but that didn't stop her eyebrow from rising in that way that has made many criminals rethink all their life choices. "Ma'am," she said, "this is my assigned vehicle. I'm allowed to park it at my residence." "No, you're not," Charlene insisted. "This neighborhood has standards, and the sight of a police car lowers the value of the homes. I checked, and I run this HOA, which means you follow my rules." My wife inhaled through her nose like she was choosing peace. "Look," she said, "I'm not arguing, but the law," Charlene cut her off. "I don't care about your so-called law. This is about the HOA, and you're out of compliance. I already filed a complaint." My wife nodded, far too calm. "Great, send it to my office. I'll take care of it in the morning." That did it. Charlene's face twisted. "In the morning? Oh no, you're not getting away with this. You think that badge means you can ignore the rules? We'll see what the real police think about your attitude." My wife blinked. "Ma'am, I am the police. And I," Charlene snapped, "am calling 911. She stormed off, practically foaming at the mouth. Her lieutenants followed, clutching their clipboards like precious relics. My wife just shook her head and walked inside. "Should we stop her?" I asked. "Nope," she said, kicking off her boots. "Let her dig her own grave." And oh boy, did she. 20 minutes later, I heard sirens. 3 squad cars rolled into the neighborhood, lights flashing, engines rumbling, and pulled right in front of our house. The officers stepped out cautiously, hands on their belts, looking around like they expected a hostage situation. Charlene practically ran up to them, waving her arms. "Officers, thank God. Arrest that woman immediately. She threatened me. She's impersonating a police officer. She brought a stolen police cruiser to her home and refuses to leave." One of the officers, Officer McBride, looked confused. "Ma'am, someone is impersonating an officer." "Yes," Charlene screamed. "She's inside my neighbor's house, pretending to be the sheriff." I swear you could see the moment McBride realized they might be dealing with a deranged caller. My wife stepped out onto the porch at exactly that moment, wearing her full uniform, badge glinting, radio crackling, nameplate shining, and the gold sheriff's insignia on her shoulder unmistakable. Every officer froze. Charlene didn't. "There she is. Arrest her." Officer McBride swallowed hard. "Sheriff, my morning was peaceful," my wife said tiredly, "but it seems I've been reported for impersonating myself." The officers looked like they wanted to melt into the asphalt. "Sheriff," McBride stammered, we were told that I was impersonating a police officer." My wife finished, "Yes, ma'am." "Do I look like someone impersonating a police officer?" McBride shook his head so fast I worried it might fly off. "Do you think," she continued, "the county gives just anyone a patrol cruiser with my name on the side?" McBride looked at the cruiser, then at her badge, then at his feet. "No, ma'am." My wife crossed her arms. "So, who made the call?" Charlene popped forward like a demented jack-in-the-box. "I did. She's violating HOA regulations and making this neighborhood look unsafe." My wife stared at her, slowly, coldly, like she was assessing how much patience she had left for the end. The answer was none. "Ma'am," my wife said carefully, "you called 911 to report me for parking my assigned sheriff's vehicle at my own home." "Well, yes, because this is a private community and we have rules, and you must follow them." My wife turned to McBride. "Officer, what's the penalty for abusing emergency services?" McBride straightened. It's a Class B misdemeanor. Sheriff, fine of up to $1,000. And what's the penalty for filing a false report? Up to 6 months jail time. Charlene's jaw dropped. What? You can't charge me. I'm the HOA president. That's not a government position, my wife said, and it certainly doesn't give you authority over county law enforcement. Charlene sputtered. But the HOA has power. No, my wife replied. The HOA has guidelines. The law, however, has consequences. The officers looked half terrified and half thrilled. They knew they were watching something legendary. My wife continued. Officer McBride, take her statement, document the false report, and issue her a citation for misuse of emergency services. She received the rest in the mail. Charlene's scream echoed through the entire cul-de-sac. This is an outrage. I'm calling the county. My wife, deadpanned, you already did. That was when it finally hit her. Charlene stood there in stunned silence as the officers began filling out paperwork right there on the hood of their squad car. Her lieutenants had backed away several feet, pretending they had never met her. She stared at my wife with a mixture of fury and horror. You tricked me. My wife tilted her head. How exactly? You didn't tell me you were the sheriff. My wife shrugged. You didn't ask. By the next morning, the rumor mill had done its job. Half the neighborhood knew what happened. Some neighbors avoided us. Some quietly whispered their congratulations like we were heroes who defeated a tyrant. But the best part? Charlene tried to hold an emergency HOA meeting to vote on a motion banning all law enforcement vehicles from being parked in the neighborhood. Only 2 people showed up. The motion failed, and the HOA attorney, after reviewing what happened, sent her a warning letter, not us. Something about creating significant legal exposure for the association, plus a reminder that HOA rules do not, have never, and will never supersede state or county law. Charlene hasn't spoken to us since. She crosses the street when she sees my wife. She even hides behind hedges to avoid eye contact. And my wife, she parks her sheriff's cruiser in the driveway every single night, with the brightest smile I've ever seen, because nothing brings her more joy than watching a petty tyrant crumble under the weight of her own arrogance. And honestly, I can't blame her.